Are you a gremlin on the internet? Are you an absolute fandom cretin? Do you Remy the Ratatouille around in the alleyways of forgotten art searching for a crumb about your favorite ship from 10 years ago? If so, you've likely seen this chart that's been making the rounds online of the most popular AO3 couples during the summer of 2023 based on data of how many new fics were written about each couple. As an internet gremlin myself, I have studied this chart intently, and using my powers of art, have decided to draw the top 10 couples listed on this spreadsheet. But that's not spicy enough. And I know, if you're aware of AO3, you will settle for nothing less than spice. So if you're not, for I shall also be doing all of this with zero reference. That means I am not allowed to Google anything for any of these couples, even if I have absolutely no clue who they are or what they look like. Everything must come from my internet gremlin mind palace. Let's get started. Alrighty, so couple number one is Steve and Eddie from Stranger Things, otherwise known as Steady. It only gets worse from here, folks. This is one that I do actually kind of know. I remember that Joe Keery is a square, and I remember that Joseph Quinn has a wig and is kind of an oval. I never actually watched the season with Eddie in it, so all of my basis of tropes and fandom is from TikTok video edits that invaded my For You page when Stranger Things Season 3, I think is when he was introduced, when Stranger Things Season 3 blew up online. So I know that they've got that kind of jock, preacher's son, you know, like good boy, nice guy vibe for Steve, and then sort of a punk, dork, bad boy vibe for Eddie. I know that Eddie plays D&D, and that he was kind of like the D&D role model adult who would sell you weed behind the gym kind of vibe. So that was what I was going with, really. There was absolutely no reference used, so I didn't know what Joe Keery or Joseph Quinn looked like. So this is the best you're getting, which are kind of Scooby-Dooified versions of them. I had never worked in Clip Studio before, by the way, so this is a bit strange. Well, no, that's a lie. I worked in Clip Studio, but only on an iPad. This is on my tablet, and I am not used to drawing on that, so the lines get a little wonky, and I do a lot of zooming and flipping because I'm trying to get used to new material, essentially. I know that technically a really big thing within their fandom is that Eddie is into BDSM, I think, because of the bandana in his back pocket. I did not want to bother drawing a body position that allowed you to see that, so I just put it on his head. I also couldn't remember the name of his D&D group. I think it's Hellfire? That might be wrong. That might be completely wrong. But I just did a little skull because he's a little punk rock boy. I have no clue what's going on in this season at all. I know that a bunch of people are in denial about Eddie being dead, maybe, but also with the age of current television, who really knows? Who really knows? People love to bring people back all the time. But yeah, that's really all we're doing here. I'm adding in some basic shadows and rendering. I'm not going to go too in-depth with any of these because there were literally 10 of them. I could not handle going super in-depth with the rendering and the backgrounds and everything. I do like Steve, and I liked Season 1 and Season 2 of Stranger Things, other than that one episode that centered entirely on Elle. But I just never watched again. I do that with a lot of things. I keep rewatching the same 4 seasons of Breaking Bad, and it's really good, but I never do it. Anyway, this is the final piece. I think the piece in total took about 3 or 4 hours. On to couple number 2, Sirius Black and Remus Lupin from the Marauders. Say it with me, folks. Fuck TERFs. Take their rights and give them to trans people. Anyway, I actually ship Wolfstar is their ship name. I do enjoy content regarding them. I like the Marauders because it is not super related to JKR and all of her low-key bigotry and sometimes high-key bigotry. I'm looking at you, Kingsley Shacklebolt, and Cho Chang. But anyway, I really like Remus Lupin and Sirius Black, and I find that their characters are really fun and dynamic, especially regarding things like queerness and gender identity. I decided just to do a cute little depiction of them. No funny business here. I just wanted to show my two little queer boys in a magical school. I actually, whenever I'm consuming content about them, I usually like non-magic because they do really interesting things with Remus's werewolf condition and how it would translate to a modern society, usually in the aspect of some chronic illness, which is something that we need more representation of, so I like to see people playing around with that. I try to do pretty traditional aspects about them, but I wasn't trying to go after any specific actor portrayal. I know a lot of people have headcanons or fan canons about who they want to portray Sirius Black and who they want to portray Remus Lupin in their fan fictions or in potential future TV series, which, let me just say, I do not want a Marauders TV series. I have no faith that they would actually make it as representational as what the fandom has been slowly shifting towards in their own creation. I think we would wind up getting an all-white, all-straight cast, and that would be really disappointing. So I am perfectly happy with Warner Brothers and whoever else not getting their grubby little mitts on this story. As far as I'm concerned, it really only shares the universe of Harry Potter. I don't want to see JKR or anyone else attempt to force any plot into it, because usually when they do that, it doesn't work out well. So yeah, they're not supposed to depict like David Thewlis or Ben Barnes, I think, are the two most popular headcanons. Or Andrew Garfield is another really big one for Remus, I think. But yeah, this is just a genuine one. There's nothing funny about it. The future ones I can't say the same because we start diving into fandoms that I am not a part of. I would say the Marauders fandom is the most popular fandom that I have engaged with and know about. Got kind of lucky with Steve and Eddie in that I had been bombarded with fan edits of them, really. And I do get lots of fan edits regarding Sirius and Remus as well. But if it tells you anything, one of my first, fandoms that I got into when I started reading fan fiction, because originally when I first got into fan fiction or fan fiction websites, it was because I was going onto Wattpad and reading amateur translations of Chinese novels. So I didn't get into fan fiction in a traditional way. But when I did finally switch over to reading just regular fan fiction, like a little internet gremlin, my baby's first fandom was Inception with Arthur and Eames. So if anybody remembers that decade on the internet, the Christopher Nolan decade about the movie with twisty buildings, yeah, that's the one. I viscerally remember the moment I got into it. It was because I was re-watching the Inception film in my friend's basement. And I was sitting down there, and I was watching the movie, and Arthur and Eames came up, and I looked at them, and I went, that's kind of gay. And I looked them up online, and I saw the 7,000 fan fictions, and went, turns out I'm not the only one who thought that. And I felt very justified. And then they became one of my most shipped couples, and I read so many words. So many words. Not all of them to the same caliber. But, when you finish all of the pages and you go back and you're like, my standards are lower now. And then you do it again, and then you just keep going. And progressively, pretty soon you're reading the weird text fics with stuff that you never thought you would read, but you're really desperate and the fandom's been dead for 20 years and you just want to learn more about these two characters that had no actual personality in the real movie. That's the cool thing about Wolfstar, is that you got constant content. Like, I love being in a big fandom. There is constant content. There are so many pages. And there's so much new fanfiction being written today. And this is such an old series. Like, well, old. It's not an old series. I tried to do the background kind of like a moon. I thought that would be cute. But yeah, this is Remus and Sirius. They're just cute. I like them. I'm gonna be honest with you guys. I have never played Genshin Impact. Okay, that's a lie. I'm sorry. I was not honest. I have played Genshin Impact for a total of about 30 minutes. And I played it on my phone, and my phone was too old, and it overheated and burned my hands, and I never played it again. So I have no clue who these characters are. And I think I drew a Good Omens. I don't think I drew a Genshin Impact. I drew a Good Omens. I looked at their names and I went, that kind of sounds like Demon and Angel. So that's what I made them. You can pick who's who. I didn't think about that. Really, these are just original characters. I need to look up what the characters actually look like. But yeah, I had no fucking clue who these people were. I knew Genshin was like a fantasy anime type of game. So I felt pretty comfortable doing stereotypical stuff in that realm, which means that our demon boy on the left here gets so many buckles. So many buckles, so much leather. Because that's really what most fantasy games are, right? They're all, you look at their outfits and you go, what are you using half of that for? Why is that there? What is that buckling? And usually the answer is just aesthetics. There is no reason for them to have half the shit that's on their body. And usually it offers absolutely no protection. That's what's so buck wild to me. I'll be playing like a fantasy game or some kind of RPG, D&D situation, and I'll be looking at the armor and I'll be like, that's offering you no protection. Like, you got these girls out there and they got like half their skin out. And I'm like, you are going to get so damaged in battle. Like, if I were in these games, I'd be head to toe chainmail. I am not dying. But anyway, I decided to play by the fun little character design rules of manga and video game artists, where they decide that human skin is apparently just as durable as reptilian skin and can withstand the perils of battle. I did give the Angel a gun, and that is solely because I had Angel with a shotgun playing in my head, which then made me think of Destiel. And I think it's really, it's really character growth that Destiel is not in the top 10 this year. Or at least not in the top 10 of the summer most popular fics written. I am kind of shocked, though, that Destiel fell off and Harry Potter remained. But I was never a Destiel person, so maybe that's why. Maybe I'm making it out to be more than it actually is because I was never a supernatural person. I know Super Hulock was all the rage when I was in middle school. I never got into most of it. I did watch a few seasons of Sherlock, and I did watch all of the David Tennant Doctor Who. But outside of that, I got really obsessed with the David Tennant Doctor Who. I will say that. Like, not to the point of wearing merch, but to the point of I would watch like 10 episodes a day. That might have been the autism. Anyway, I did also give them cloaks. I feel like cloaks are a very anime thing. And I gave them long hair. Or I gave the guy on the left long hair. The guy on the right gets like those curly perms that they like to give the pretty boys. You know, like the Sakusa Kiyomi perm. That's what I was going for. So I had Angel with a shotgun playing in my head while I drew these, and I went through and inked them. And you'll notice with all of these, I use a different inking pen because I was just downloading assets like crazy off video. That's the danger of Clip Studio, you know? The asset store has so much free stuff. It's like endless shopping. Endless, guiltless shopping until you run out of storage on your computer and you have to purge everything. I did eventually rename my brushes because 90% of them were written in Chinese or Japanese, and I speak neither of those languages. So I was just guessing if I was using the same brush I used before because I could not recognize if it was a different brush entirely because the characters would blend together. I used to be able to read some of, like, oh gosh, what's it called? Hiragana? I think hiragana is the Japanese and then katakana is like the Americanized. I don't know what I'm saying. I used to be able to read some Japanese characters and some Korean characters. I have since lost that skill entirely. Those skills were developed solely as productive procrastination when I didn't want to do my college university course load. I wanted to have a little more dynamism. I always say this word wrong. I wanted to make the composition a bit more dynamic, so I had some feathers coming off. I'm sure that probably hurts, but it makes it look pretty. We move around a lot here. I am so sorry if it is causing motion sickness to anybody. I was just zipping around the canvas, not a care in the world. I did not give a shit. I was zooming, I was zipping, I was flipping. I had no care about how the recording turned out. And I did spend far too long on most of these, so I have to speed it up by like 30 to 50 times what the original recording was at. During one of these recordings too, I did have original audio. I had to completely remove that. I work in like a public area, and during one of either this couple or the couple before, my mom was in the background making phone calls to the veterinarian's office and to a dermatology office. And the waiting music on those two phone calls was so vastly different and equally hilarious. At the dermatology office, they had straight up 70s porn music. You had the saxophone, you had the vibes. I felt like I was about to get it on in the dermatology office. And then you go over to the veterinarian's office, and it was like old people nursing home music box music. It was such a jarring difference, and I don't know which one was worse. But I found them both hilarious and incredibly uncomfortable to listen to, specifically the 70s porn one when I was in a room with both my mother and brother. There is a good chance that this was also influenced by a book that I am currently reading about a necromancer and a demon who fall in love. So I kind of had demons on the brain, and I had no thoughts about this couple, given that I have no Genshin experience. My best friend does. My best friend played Genshin when it came out. They played it pretty regularly, and they also played it on their phone. I have no clue how they did that. I don't know how the phone didn't burn their hands. But they were really lucky. They had like really high luck, so they would get all the really fancy characters, and they didn't have to spend any money. I don't have that kind of luck. I am incredibly unlucky. I faceplant on flat ground. Luck, nowhere to be seen. I tried to do something a little different with the background on this one. because I felt like I was just doing circles over and over again. So now you get rectangles. Okay, so I have technically watched Bungo Stray Dogs. I have watched the first 2 episodes, I think. And once again, similar to Stranger Things, I was like, this is really good. And then I never watched it again. So I don't know much. I have gotten some fan videos of Bungo Stray Dogs because TikTok has decided that I need to watch Bungo Stray Dogs. And I remember Dazai wanted to die with a pretty lady. I never met Chuya, but when I see him in the fan edits, he just looks so angry. And I was looking at their characters. Well, I was thinking about my mind palace versions of their characters, and I went, who do they remind me of? And it kind of reminded me of Nick and Judy from Zootopia. So I gave them matching Zootopia shirts, because I was like, aw, cute couple. But I feel like they could be a Disney couple. I feel like there's the potential for that. But I felt like Nick and Dazai are each other in different fonts, and Chuya and Judy are each other in different fonts. One of them considerably more evil. But you just gotta push Judy the wrong way, and I think she could become Chuya. So I wanted to embody, kind of golden retriever boyfriend jackass energy, and then just angry tiny man energy. So that's what we went with. I vaguely remembered their character designs, so we don't have too much straying from that. Really, the major thing is, could I remember or get any sense of vibes from them? And I think I nailed it with the Judy Hopps. I think Chuya and Judy Hopps truly are twin flames. And I'll stand by that. Have I ever seen Chuya in the series? No. But do I feel like I understand him on a soul level? Yes. I probably should watch Bungo Stray Dogs, but I have also started to see lots of very depressed fans where they're like, I'm in denial. I'm delusional right now about the status of the characters, specifically Dazai, and I don't know if I'm emotionally okay with entering a headspace like that. That's my issue with all of these shonen action animes. I don't know if Bungo Stray Dogs is a shonen. I don't watch a lot of anime. People think I do, but I actually don't. But they're always so sad. And I'm naturally sad. It's why I'm on medication. I don't want to make myself sad. If I want to make myself sad, I'll just sit and go into an existential crisis. I don't need an anime to do it to me. So I tend to watch just absolute chaos animes. And that's what I thought Bungo Stray Dogs was going to be, but now I'm having second thoughts. Now I'm worried that the Judy Hopps vibes aren't going to be as immaculate as I'm making them out to be. And I don't know if I'm ready for that. I don't know if I'm prepared for that. I don't know if we can enter this emotional relationship because my mental health is not stable, just like Dazai's lifeline. So we're waiting. We're waiting to see. But it does. I liked the art when I did watch the first 2 episodes 3 years ago. I did go a little more rendery and painty on this one because I thought that would be fun, and I did change up the background a little bit. You get even larger rectangles than before. We're really moving on up in the world. But yeah, I did like the kind of angry demon expression I put on Chuya. I don't know if Chuya is a demon. I got some videos with him with red eyes, I think, or black eyes, one of those, and people being like, Chuya demon boy. So I took that and I ran with it. It could be entirely fake. I could have gotten deep faked and I would have no idea. But we're we're trusting the internet. We're doing the one thing you should never do, and we're trusting the internet. Specifically, we're trusting fan video editors because they never take things out of context. I do remember liking Dazai a lot, though. I liked Dazai, and I liked the little detective guy. Those are the only two characters I can remember as well. I know the main character was like a tiger. I don't even remember what the main character looked like. Dazai and Detective Man. I think his name's Rampo. They were my main characters. Here are Judy and Nick. Hope you enjoy. So keeping it up with things I have never engaged with, we got Call of Duty. I would have been so screwed if I didn't follow one artist who sometimes drew Soap Ghost fan art. Even then, it was not that much of a help. I remember one of them kind of had like a skull face mask thingy, I think. I had no clue which one it was. I don't know. My brother later informed me after I had finished which one was which. I have promptly forgotten. That went in one ear, out the other. Also, apparently one of them is like English or Irish, and I did give them an American flag. So I accidentally colonized them. I'm so sorry. I'm realizing that I am the problem. But I really just use this to draw a couple of army boys, military boys, being in love with each other. And I find that really fun to do. I love taking, as a member of the queer community, as a gay woman herself, I love to take traditionally gender role-y people and make them gay, just because it's like, there is no gender rules when it comes to queerness, and people who try to enforce those can kindly fuck off. So I decided to go ham on that with this one. But I don't know what army uniforms look like at all, or military uniforms. I don't even know what branch Call of Duty is in. I have never played a Call of Duty game in my life, nor have I ever watched someone play Call of Duty. Like, my brother was not a Call of Duty person, and he was the only person I watched play video games growing up until I discovered, like, Markiplier and Jacksepticeye, and they never played Call of Duty. Well, they might have, but I wasn't watching them when they did that. And then I started playing video games, but my video games are, like, gay dating simulators and JRPGs. Like, we're out here playing Fire Emblem. We're not out here playing Call of Duty. I need my turn-by-turn strategy-based games. Otherwise, I panic. I used to have to turn off the sound when I played Mario because the boss music freaked me out too much. We have anxiety. I can't handle it. Also, I'm in America. There are too many guns here anyway. I don't need them in my video games. But this does seem like a kind of cute couple. I have no clue what their dynamic is. I've never read fanfiction of them. I've never seen any canon material of them. The only exposure I have gotten of them is through that one artist making fan art sometimes. Usually girly pop fan art of the one with the skull face, which I find very cute and funny. So, no concept, no thoughts at all with this grouping, with this pairing. I don't know what their dynamic is. Honestly, this is just like a slight step above the Genshin Impact one, which is kind of impressive because at least I had played Genshin. But with these two, I had seen bare minimum content. I kind of want to now, though. I'm kind of curious. I mentioned them to my brother, and he looked at me with absolute bafflement, and he went, "The first person POV people? How the fuck do you make fan fiction out of them?" So I'm very curious how the fuck they made fan fiction out of them. To be fair though, when he played it, from what he remembers, because he played it like very minimally when he was like a young teenager, uh, they didn't even have faces. It was like these were the first person POV people, and you didn't even know what they looked like. So it sounds like Call of Duty has slightly expanded on the lore, on the backstory of Soap and Ghost. I do find their names really funny too. I like when people have quirky little nicknames, funny little nicknames that have no relationship to their actual name. I think that it's a fun thing to add to your characters as well. It kind of gives you a peek into a part of their personality. I don't know what part of their personality this gives them a peek into. I don't know if like Soap is really clean or if he's really dirty. I feel like it could go either way. Or maybe he curses a lot and you gotta like put soap in your mouth. I never had to do that. I feel like that's a really weird punishment to give a kid. You know, it's like taking the metaphor and the analogy just several steps too far. Like, why would you do that to your kid for cursing? When usually the cursing is the issue of someone else around them cursing around them and not necessarily them explicitly trying to make an issue, you know? I don't know. Maybe I'm thinking too much about this. Ghost, I figure, has to do with death. That would be my best bet. But you know, maybe Ghost is like me and has a weird thing with gender and envies things like ghosts that have no perceivable gender, and they just want to be a little Casper the Ghost, just float around and fuck with people. Maybe that's what Ghost is about. But given that it's Call of Duty with such a massive straight male audience, I have a feeling it has to do with death. I don't actually know which one's which. I don't know if Ghost has the skull mask or if Soap does. In this one, I guess I made Ghost have the skull mask. I think in my head I was referring to Ghost as the right-hand one. I also don't know if their hair is like military regulation, but I really don't like buzz cuts. Well, I do like buzz cuts on some people. Like, I feel like there are certain people that can pull off buzz cuts, but it's very difficult to pull off buzz cuts, and no one in my art can pull off a buzz cut. I do not draw pretty enough faces to pull off buzz cuts, or like strong enough bone structure. Anyway, here they are. I like them. I'll read fanfic of them. So our next one is another Harry Potter one, or sorry, the Marauders one, which is James Potter and Regulus Black. Is it Regulus or Regulus? I think it's Regulus, but sometimes I say Regulus, and then I try and think about which one I prefer to say, and I get into that like syrup versus syrup thing where I feel like I say both of them, and then I have a whole crisis. But anyway, James Potter and Regulus Black. I'm not anti-Jegulus, but I'm also not an active shipper of it. Because I am envious of people who can do multi-shipping. I'm awful at multi-shipping. I pick my pair and then I am loyal to the death with them. Not that I like reject other people's, but just I tend to only consume content about the pairing that I like. And I originally got into Wolfstar, and that was the couple that I really liked. I liked them, and I liked Marlene and Dorcas. So a lot of those early on fics were Jilly fics. Like, Jilly was the side couple. So I never read a lot of Regulus. So his character was a bit strange for me to learn about and then get behind. I do like him as the side character. I find the brothers' relationship and dynamic really interesting. But I just have not gotten into Jegulus. I can see why it's popular though. I mean, it's trope central. It's got best friends, brother. It's got enemies to lovers. Like, you got all the good fanfic tropes wrapped into one. But also, you're going to notice after I put in the colors, which should be pretty soon. Right now I'm just inking. I liked doing the little blur lines for the spin when Regulus is twirling his wand. I haven't done that in a lot of my pieces, and now I want to do it in like all of them because it's a fun way to add movement. I saw people doing smear frames and like animation videos, and I was like, I could do that, but in one frame, in only one part of the drawing, because the whole thing being smeared would be confusing. But it could be fun to just have one part be a little blurry. But I am a Desi James Potter fan. I like when people make James. I think the most popular ones are they'll make him either Desi or Hispanic. I think Desi's the most popular one. I think it's really neat. I think that it's really nice whenever they explicitly add information about like Desi culture as well and have that influence his character, because his character is such a blank slate. We do not get a lot of James Potter information in the book, so you can really do whatever you want with him. So I really like that the fandom has been moving towards having more inclusivity of various races and cultures. And I think that James Potter is a fun one to do that with, because then you can have a main character who comes from a different background, who has that new perspective on life and everything. So I do draw him that way whenever I draw him, just because I think it's nice and I like to have that inclusivity and diversity that is severely lacking in the Harry Potter universe. When I was working on this piece, I showed my mom some of the couples at the end, and my mom thought that James was leaning against a giant paintbrush instead of a broom because I ran out of space to draw the rest of the broom head. And now I cannot unsee it in my mind. That man is just real into art. That man is Spencer from iCarly, making massive sculptural pieces. And I love that for him. Spencer from iCarly was my favorite character on iCarly. If anyone doesn't like Spencer from iCarly, I consider that a massive red flag. Like, what do you mean you don't like the brother who gave up everything in his life to support his sister and still managed to become a successful artist after giving up law school? What do you mean? That's like the American dream. Actually, I don't like the American dream. I think the American dream was built upon capitalist foundations, and I could go on about that, but I don't want this video to be very political. So we're just gonna keep drawing our little gay wizards. I have read some fanfiction with Regulus as like a side pairing, because it's the most popular side pairing to have with Wolfstar nowadays. And they're cute in it. I usually like whenever they do that, though. I don't want them to get rid of Lily entirely or make her like the bad guy. I like when they pair Lily up with like a sapphic relationship like Mary. Anyway, here they are. I think they're cute. Alright, so don't mind the fact that the drawing has already been started. I forgot to press record, and I started drawing and didn't realize that I didn't want to redraw everything because I liked how Edward's face was turning out. So, as you can see, we are on to couple number 7 on the top 10 list, which is Edward Teach, aka Blackbeard, and Steed Bonnet from Our Flag Means Death. I have seen this show. I actually really like this show. I like Taika Waititi, who's acting in it. I like, oh gosh, it's Riz something, and I cannot remember his last name, but the actor who plays Steed Bonnet is quite funny. And I just think the show in general has a lot of really good representation. It does not match up historically, and I think that that's okay, because historically, Steed Bonnet was kind of a dick, and I much prefer this version of it. And I don't think it's trying to be historically accurate. I think it's just taking inspiration from something that happened in history and then putting its own little spin on it. And I think that's perfectly acceptable to do in creative media. I don't feel like historical accuracy needs to be pristine. Obviously, like, you want to be respectful, but they have the main concept down. I think it works here. But yeah, I really like this couple. I really like this pairing. I think that everything that went on around this pairing was also pretty funny, given that people were 100% believing that they were about to get queer baited, because it just felt very much like Sherlock Watson, BBC Sherlock vibes, where you're so certain that they're going to get together, and then they just really pull one on you. They really fuck with you. And then Our Flag Means Death didn't do that, and they gave us an actual on-screen kiss that no one could argue against. And I loved that. I hate having to try and justify, you know, queer allegory and undertones to people. I like whenever it's like very obvious and explicit, so that I'm like, you can't argue against this. And I really like this couple. I actually didn't finish Our Flag Means Death. I watched like the first half of it, and I then didn't finish it because I didn't want to start it until I knew it had gotten renewed. But yeah, I like them, and I like how I did the shading on this. So as we've established, I don't watch anime, and this does extend to, well, I watch some anime, but I haven't watched as much as I appear that I should have, given how people interact with me and how I have been asked on multiple occasions, do you watch anime? I have never watched My Hero Academia, so I didn't know who these people were. I vaguely knew Bakugo, because Bakugo is just everywhere on the internet. If you engage in any form of anime or fandom, you have probably encountered the My Hero Academia fandom, and via that, you have encountered Bakugo. So I knew he had blonde spiky hair, and I knew he was real angry. I just knew he was just such a little porcupine. So I went with that. I kind of wound up making him look like the drummer from Given, which is an anime I've watched, who also has blonde spiky hair and is kind of angry. So I think I just drew him as the drummer from Given. I don't know if the vibes are the same there, though. I'm not as confident in that one as I am with Judy Hopps. But I didn't know who Midoriya Izuku was. My mind kept supplying me with the image of this fire ice boy who had like half red, half white hair and a burned face. But I did not know. I was far less confident in that being that character than I was in Bakugo being the spiky blonde one. So I removed him entirely. I did not want to risk it and draw a completely different character thinking that it was this one. I knew it wasn't the green-haired guy. Watch it be the green-haired guy now. But I'm pretty sure the green-haired guy is like Deku or something with Deku. Like their ship name's Baku Deku. I see it online sometimes, and I don't think this is that. So I kind of just leaned into the tropes with this one and made up a character on the right-hand side. They're both in school uniforms because it's My Hero Academia, so I figured probably takes place in school. Might not. I'm thinking kind of like that one Disney superhero movie, Sky High. I'm thinking just anime Sky High right now. You know, I'm going to put it out there. This is anime Sky High. Bakugo is one of the superheroes, and Midoriya in this image is the sidekick. Those are what I'm trying to put out here. But I was also thinking about, you know, the big trope that I was playing around with here and that I know is typically done. You have a couple of things that can be done with angry guys, right? Like the angry, gruff, aggressive love interest. And I feel like it's either you pair them up with someone real soft, so it's like I hate everyone but you, or you pair them up with someone who is polite but just as much of a jackass, where it's like we hate everyone together, but I handle the people and you handle the fighting. That kind of vibe. And I feel like that one's so much less done in media, and it's such a fun pairing to have because it just allows for absolute chaos. So I wanted to do that with this one. I wanted to do kind of the smarmy best friend who can keep the angry one in line, but is just as angry himself. He just knows when to unleash it. So we got a couple of real angry boys. I did give Bakugo frosted red tips. Is it frosted red tips or just dyed tips? I think frosted is only when it's blonde. I did give Bakugo red tips. I don't know if he has red tips. In my brain, he has red tips. And I think that might have just been from an anime edit with like color grading, but it felt like it fit here. I had also just watched Sasuke and Miyano, so I was thinking about that one black-haired guy who had the dyed blue tips and how he was kind of like angry and frustrated, but also very lovable and voiced by our icon, Jonah Scott. So I did wind up having fun with this one. I did something different with the background. You can see that I did, it's not a rectangle or a circle. It is just a completely foreign shape entirely. I have not taken geometry in a while, so I don't know if I could tell you what shape this is. I think it's a polygon. I don't know how many sides it has. I am not good at math. I did all of my math courses in high school, and then I took the obligatory statistics course for my neuroscience degree, and then I never touched math again. I don't ever want to look at it again. Numbers, bad. Numbers are bad. I don't like them. I don't see why they have to exist. They're so rigid. Like, I need math to relax. I spent most of my calculus class watercoloring with one of those portable brushes in my sketchbook. I gave up. First semester, I was like, this isn't happening. But here are Bakugo and Midoriya, maybe. We got our first real people couple. And I looked at them and I went, those are real people, and I'm not going to try and draw them from my mind palace, so let's draw animals instead. You'll notice that the sketch is already completely done. That's because I was trying to figure out what animals I wanted to do and what they would look like on a different page, and I liked how one of the sketches was coming out, so I just copy-pasted it into the document that I was doing filming of. I do that for the next one as well, just as a forewarning. So this is Wilbur Soot and Soot? I don't know. I don't watch Minecraft YouTube. That's one where I missed it age demographically, I think, or just fandom-wise. It just didn't overlap with anything that I was into at that time. It's Wilbur Soot and Tommy Innit, I think. And I was thinking about them and I was looking at their names and I was talking with my brother about it. And I was like, obviously, Wilbur is a pig. You got Charlotte's Web. That's like, alongside Babe, the most iconic pig. Well, alongside Babe and then the parents from Spirited Away. Those are the three most iconic pigs. You tell me to think of pigs, that's what I think of. But I was stumped on Tommy Innit, and then my brother went, Innit kind of sounds like a British phrase. You know, people say in it in a British accent a lot. And so we were trying to think of British animals, and we landed on fox. We felt like foxes were British. I don't know why. I don't know why that was the one we chose, but, you know, I feel like it fits. I feel like foxes are big within, like, the British countryside, maybe. I've never been to England. I'm talking completely out of my ass. But I also just felt like it would be, you know, a slim, elegant fox would be a nice juxtaposition against, like, sort of the softer, rounder pig. So, for artistic and compositional reasons, I did that as well. I actually had a lot of fun with this. I've never really drawn fursonas or anthropomorphic animals before, but this was really fun. I've gotten into a thing where I'm like, I don't want to judge any kind of fandom or fan group or what people enjoy. And especially, like, you know, it's just fun. It's fun to draw so many different things. And when you expand your ability to animals too, it's like so much more. But yeah, here they are. We have reached the final couple, which is Will Byers and Mike Wheeler from Stranger Things. We started with Stranger Things, we're ending with Stranger Things. It's quite the come around. So, I do know, similar to what I said in the first Stranger Things, I know these characters. I don't know them from the most recent seasons because I haven't watched them. But I know their general dynamic. I know that Mike is supposed to be a bit more of like the outspoken, maybe a little wild or chaotic of the characters, and then Will is supposed to be kind of the quieter, more meek artist. Meek not meaning weak, just meaning he's a bit more reserved. I couldn't remember. I saw online like that they went on a trip. Not Mike, but that the Byers family went on a trip, and I didn't know where it was. I thought maybe California, so I just made a shirt from California, but that's what that's supposed to be referencing. It's wherever they went to before they came back in one of the seasons. I think this is a cute couple. I've never read anything about them. I've never really engaged in stuff regarding them. I think their ship really blew up in the more recent seasons, so I wasn't present in the fandom for those, but you know, I'm all for, you know, queer coming of age stories. I ate that shit up, and I still do sometimes. I will say I was a little sad that there were no sapphic couples in the top 10 because I wanted to draw some pretty ladies being in love. Number 11 was a sapphic couple. Number 11 was Wednesday Addams and Enid Sinclair from the show Wednesday. And I nearly drew that, but the video was already getting so long. So maybe I'll do another video drawing the top female WLW relationships on AO3. But yeah, I was a bit downtrodden about that, but you know, I do like this couple. I don't want to make it sound sad during this couple. I just don't have a lot to say about it. I just did a genuine little cutesy fan art of them, since I vaguely knew what they looked like, and I gave them their respective kind of atrocious haircuts. But yeah, that's all. Hooray, we finished.